Here's the question. How do you make the impossible possible? Simple. Remove the I am, the ego. Now, how do you step into that newfound possibility? With a series of small intentional steps. Never forget, the greatest among us started from humble beginnings. But to truly unlock your potential, realize you're here for something greater. If you're yearning for more than just a good life, let's take that small step together to reach greatness. Welcome to the Greatness from Small Beginnings podcast, where we're talking to those who have gone from mediocrity to motivated, overlooked to overachieving, forgettable to unforgettable. Are you ready? Let's go. Welcome, everybody. I want to preface today's Greatness from Small Beginnings podcast with an admission that as I look at myself, I say, man, I am so far from great. And I have some problems in my life. I have problems with concentration. I have problems sometimes with concept, where I'm not dialed in on the exact concept that I'm trying to work within, and then some interrelational issues at times that I'm like, how do I handle that one? How do I handle it in the moment and yet be patient enough to make sure that it isn't something that'll just heal, not on its own, but that it won't. Sometimes I feel like relationally, the tendency is to force things, is to go have the hard conversation really soon or really quick. And when that often the person on the other end is pondering and they're working through things. And often I'll just wonder if that's the right way to handle it. So that being said, when I'm struggling, and I have struggles always. We all have struggles always. And if we don't, honestly, we're living a life with too few goals. And that's just kind of an opinion. Like, we don't have enough things out in front of us to really, that we're really trying for, if we don't have struggles. So I will put that back on you, the listener, and say, if you're not struggling with something, then you might want to look at why. Is that I think that struggle is part of the greatness, that when we get to greatness at any point, it comes from struggle. And if you have no struggle, then you're not actually growing. So that being said, I do have some struggles, and I was pondering some stuff this morning. I was processing out loud with somebody on a couple of things, and it probably, if someone else had been listening, it would have sounded very critical of a person, of the situation, and it would have sounded very judgmental. But before I get to the context, the actual statement that I want to say today is that I was listening recently to a webinar that I mentioned on the last podcast, or one of the recent podcasts I did solo. And one of the things in the webinar was a guy talking about how he was challenged by someone else, and the two of them together held each other accountable for learning not to be judgmental. And he said, we just decided that one day, now granted, we're going to be judgmental. We're going to judge things. We're going to judge people. We're going to judge circumstances. That's natural for humans. And he said, I knew that. But what we decided is that we would be aware, that we would do our best not to judge, and not to use that judgment to kind of define the situation. But that through that, they went through most of a week. And he said that opportunity, that it changed his life. And the comment alone has begun to change mine. And I've been practicing that. And so I would also recommend that is, we know when we get judgy. We know when we look at someone or something, a circumstance that we know is not right, and we often will just assume the worst of someone else. And that's probably, it's almost never true that someone had our worst in mind that to make things worth with us, or and often it's just an unawareness in them that we made us the focus of the issue, and often they didn't even notice that we were part of it in some cases. So so that sometimes we judge from a position of thinking more highly of ourselves than we should, because we think, oh, this person thinks this of me, doesn't like me, doesn't, or is judging me. And honestly, in many cases, they haven't even noticed. And we think that we are the key to the whole thing, or the center of the issue, and in most people's minds, literally, we are not. We can have conversations about those things. Hey, about this thing, what was that about? And then you find out that we were not part of the equation at all, or very small piece, and actually a positive part of it. So we need to dig in more. We need to find out more from the people that are around us, what it is they're where they're coming from, rather than judging them or judging a situation that was created perhaps by someone else, that we just think the worst of someone. And I tend to do that. I do. I think we all do to some degree. And I'm determined to do that far less, or to be very aware of the fact that I do it. So I will do it less. And that they can have, with God's help, it can repair that judgmental part of myself. And perhaps even through that, be more loving and kind and make more impact on people's lives. Okay, so all of that to preface this idea about commitment. The reason I preface with all that is because there's a lot standing in the way. There's problems, there's issues, there's judgments on us, and judgments that we make that stand in the way of some of this concept. I'll read the statement and then I'll just break it down a little bit. It's by Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. I'm not sure how to say his last name. Until one is committed, there is hesitancy, the chance to draw back. Always ineffectiveness is back. Concerning all acts of initiative and creation, there is one elementary truth, and ignorance of which kills countless ideas and splendid plans. That the moment one definitely commits commits oneself, then providence moves too. It's a pretty heady statement, but to me, I've heard it a couple of different times, and it's been read to me, and I've talked through this with one of my coaches. The idea is to commit. And when we commit, then we're not hesitant anymore. That means we're moving forward. That doesn't mean on every piece of it, but we're moving forward. And then we eliminate the ineffectiveness because we don't give ourselves the chance to draw back. We create that motion forward. In that first statement, he does that verbal gymnastics that says, unless one is committed, there is hesitancy, the chance to draw back, always ineffectiveness. The next statement, concerning all acts of initiative and creation, comma, there is one elementary truth, and truth, the ignorance of which kills countless ideas and splendid plans. And I'll get to the last statement in a moment, but concerning all acts of initiative and creation, there is one elementary truth. So there's a truth that centers around these ideas that we have, that we should be acting on, that we want to act on, and we're allowing ourselves to be hesitant. Maybe, what's the word I'm looking for? Doubt ourselves, to be perhaps insecure. And we need to move far enough that the insecurity, the doubt, is behind us. And that is hard to do sometimes. Sometimes that's what plays in from those judgments, is that often we'll judge things not even in the truth of the situation. And there will be doubt that pops up out of those judgments, and the judgments weren't even true. They weren't even right. So the enemy of our soul, in that case, wins when the activity the moving forward is what God wanted us to do. And sometimes we don't do it. The last statement says about the elementary truth. It says that the moment one definitely commits oneself, then providence moves too. So in essence, maybe it's something you were meant to be and you were meant to do. Or maybe not, but it's something that's a desire of your heart and there's no one out there doing it and you move forward into it anyway. The providential side of it is that positive side, that side that if it can happen and it's supposed to happen and you're supposed to be the one to carry this through, then move providence, move the need in the world to make this thing happen, to step into your greatness. So make the commitment. So I'll go back to the very beginning. Until one is committed, there is hesitancy. And there is hesitancy, lots of it in me. I've admitted doubt. I was with somebody the other day and they were praying for me on a particular subject. And he said, "What did you hear? What'd you feel?" And I said, "I actually think I felt doubt." And he said, "Wow, we need to pray through that one too, because that's like an enemy." He didn't explain all this, but I knew what he meant. It's an enemy of our soul to doubt when we're supposed to be doing something amazing, or even some small step that gets us a step closer to that amazing. And that was an interesting story that I had with him that day. And then we prayed against the doubt. It wasn't all gone because I still felt it. But then as I am beginning to understand doubt a little bit better, often the doubt itself is the enemy, not what's even behind the doubt. And we need to remember that the doubt it comes from a source that isn't on our side. It come from our own heart, our flesh, our weakness, our inadequacy, or it can literally be planted by the enemy of our soul. And we need to literally, in all of those cases, not reject it completely, because sometimes doubt keeps us in a safer spot. But if we're trying to commit and do something amazing, that safety, we need to leave it behind. Leave it behind with the doubt. Get a little risky and move towards something better. So the idea is to take initiative and don't let the countless ideas and splendid plans that are mentioned in this statement by Johann, that often they'll just get killed, that we allow them to get killed, and we shouldn't do that. So that being said, we need to take action, the right action, based on creating goals that are specific, that have the right timing in them, that use the smart method. And you can go online, just look up SMART, SMART, capitalize them, and it'll come up, SMART method, and it'll come up. It's a type of goal setting you go through. There's two they add to it, SMART-er, and I like those two added. It's not necessarily online. If you want it, I could provide you with that document. But some coach that I know added two others that are the ER, and that they dig in a little deeper on the emotional side. And so I would love to hear your comments on this statement by Johann, and then to see if you're taking action. See that if anything I possibly have said that got you to stand up out of the chair or to make that next step forward, I would love to hear about that. So I'm going to end the way I always do, and I'm going to create the call to action and say, it's your choice. Now go be great.